We're on site here at a prescribed hazard reduction burn on the urban interface. The prescription is for low intensity, and you can see there the flame height is below our knee height. Low intensity here, we've still got patches of leaf litter on the ground. We're not removing the entire level of leaf litter, and the purpose of that is that we want to reduce the fuel, but we don't want to get down to mineral earth and cause erosion issues. So we're in an urban bushland environment where we've got houses just over this way. We're right behind the houses. So properties that back onto the bushland reserves. And it's really important to have an asset protection zone or fuel reduced areas close to community assets. The purpose of this burn is to reduce the fuel to lessen the impact of bushfires in the summer months. So the potential for bushfires to come and impact on assets and houses in this area is extreme. So it's really important that the Rural Fire Service, land managers work collaboratively to ensure that we're reducing fuels in these asset protection zones. So one of the key indicators of a low intensity burn is how high our scorch height gets to, or what is impacted by the heat from the fire. You can see here some tree scarring, fibrous bark tree, so it's going to naturally want to burn, but we can see that the scarring hasn't got all the way up the tree. So a key indicator is to keeping the flame height down at that low level so we don't have a scorch height that is too high. Generally a scorch height around about the hip is preferred in this sort of environment, and the smooth bark trees you can see there are not being impacted at all. So for all hazard reduction burns, it's vital that we have appropriate control lines around our burn. That can be either a mineral earth control line, a fire trail, a road, or it could be a creek. Or we can use moisture in the vegetation as a control line. The situation here is we've got a mineral earth control line that's been raked prior to us getting here, hose lines in place, and it's important not to cause erosion or establish a new walking track, an informal walking track, when we're establishing these control lines. So this control line will be allowed to revegetate after we've completed the burn to ensure that we don't have any erosion issues on this steep slope. So part of the environmental prescriptions for this site is to have low intensity because we're on a steep slope, but also because of the vegetation in the area. This particular area has a blue gum forest in close proximity, and that particular blue gum only grows in this area and nowhere else. Part of the purpose of this burn is to protect that blue gum forest just down slope. So we want to reduce the fuels, but we also want to use fire for regenerative purposes. The natural regeneration process of putting a bit of heat in the soil and germinating some of the seed in this area will help with all the ecological issues within this area. So setting the priorities for hazard reductions can be a bit of a balancing act. The priority for this burn is we've got houses or assets right at the top of the ridge, including a childcare centre that need to be protected from the threat of wildfires. But we also have the balancing act of dealing with the blue gum forest in this vicinity and some other threatened species. So we need to take into consideration those threatened species before we simply go and burn the bush. As part of the process, we do an environmental assessment, either under the Hazard Reduction Bushfire Environmental Assessment Code, or a review of environmental factors, for example. That will give us the detail about how to include the environmental factors into our burn plan. Ultimately, we then end up with a description about what sort of flame height we need and what areas we need to exclude. In this particular burn, we have 2 fire exclusion zones due to threatened species. We also have to take into consideration the public access along bike tracks and also the neighbours. Where is the smoke going and where is that smoke going to impact on our community? So prescribed burning, essentially, there's a lot in it. It's not just something that we do at a whim. So the benefit of doing spot ignition like this is that you can always start slow and add more fire as you go. The further your spots are away, you can always add more fire. But if you add too much fire from the start, you can't take it back easily. So in this instance, if we wanted to, we could add additional fire between those spots and join them up. But this is doing exactly what we want it to do, burning down the slope. It's burning well and removing that fuel at a slow pace. It's just all about having a bit of patience and letting the fire do what it needs to do.